Most men think they're good at arguing. They believe if they just say the right words, explain their side clearly, or defend themselves better, they'll win. But in reality, that's not how it works. You don't win arguments by talking. You win them by not needing to. Because silence changes everything. It's power, it's control, it's emotional discipline. The kind of strength most people will never understand. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop trying to prove yourself is the moment you gain all the power in the room. Think about the last time you had an argument. Maybe it was with your girlfriend, maybe with a coworker, or even a friend. You got emotional, your heart rate went up, your voice got louder. You were saying the right things, you were making sense, but they weren't hearing you. And when it was over, you felt drained, frustrated, and maybe even a little embarrassed. You thought, why did I let myself get pulled into that? That's what happens when you lose emotional control. And that's why silence is the ultimate weapon. Because it takes away the one thing most people depend on, your reaction. When you go quiet, something shifts. The energy changes. The other person suddenly has to face their own noise. Your silence forces them to sit with themselves. And that's uncomfortable. They start to question what they said, how they said it, and why you're not responding. That's when power moves from them to you. See, silence is not about ignoring people or walking away from everything. It's about control. It's about knowing when speaking makes things better and when it only makes things worse. In most cases, arguing is not about truth. It's about ego. People want to win. They want to feel right. They want the last word. But a wise man doesn't need the last word. He just needs peace. And the moment you realize that, your whole mindset changes. When you argue with emotion, you're playing their game. When you stay silent, you make them play yours. Let me give you an example. You're having an argument with your girlfriend. She's emotional, frustrated, and maybe says something that hits below the belt. If you react, if you raise your voice, defend yourself, try to explain, you're feeding her emotion. But if you stay calm, breathe, and let the silence do the work, she'll feel it. At first, she'll be even more upset. She'll say, "Why aren't you saying anything?" But deep down, she'll feel something shift. Your calmness makes her reflect. Your silence becomes the mirror. And that reflection always says more than your words could. That's not manipulation. That's maturity. You're not trying to win her over. You're showing her that you don't fight from ego. You lead from composure. That's what real men do. And this works everywhere, not just in relationships. At work, when someone tries to test you, when they raise their tone or try to embarrass you publicly, stay silent. Let them burn their energy. People who talk too much in conflict always look weak. The calm, quiet one always looks in control. Because silence signals confidence. It says, I don't need to prove myself. I know who I am, and people can feel that energy. Even on social media, silence speaks. When people try to bait you online, comments, arguments, cheap shots, just don't respond. Because every time you react, you give them power. But when you don't, they fade. They lose momentum because drama needs participation, and silence kills participation. You see, there's a reason why some men stand out in every situation. They don't talk over people. They don't rush to explain themselves. They don't argue with fools. They just stay calm, say little, and when they finally speak, people listen. That's masculine energy. That's respect. That's presence. Now let's get real. Staying silent isn't easy. It's not natural, especially when you feel attacked or misunderstood. Every part of your ego wants to defend itself. It wants to say, you don't know what you're talking about. But the stronger move is to hold back, to breathe, to wait, to respond later when the emotion is gone. Because when emotion goes down, logic goes up. You can think clearly. And the things that seemed urgent in the heat of the moment usually don't even matter after a few hours. That's why the Stoics, ancient philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, talked so much about mastering your reactions. They believed that true strength comes from what you don't say, not what you do. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. When you stay silent, you're exercising that power. You're saying, I control me. You don't. Every argument gives you two paths. One, react emotionally and lose control. Two, stay silent and take control. Most people take the first path because it's easy. Silence takes discipline. It takes maturity. And it's something you build over time. Start small. When someone cuts you off in traffic, stay quiet. When someone sends you a passive-aggressive text, don't respond immediately. When your partner says something out of frustration, take a breath. These small moments train your emotional muscle. They teach you to choose calm over chaos. And that's what makes you unshakable. Here's what happens when you master this. You stop being easily provoked. You stop needing to be right all the time. You stop arguing with people who don't even deserve your attention. You conserve your energy. You stay grounded. And ironically, people respect you more. Because deep down, everyone can feel the difference between loud confidence and quiet strength. Loud confidence is fragile. Quiet strength is solid. Now let's talk about what silence actually does to people. When you stop talking, most people feel pressure. They feel awkward. They try to fill the silence. And in doing that, they reveal their true emotions. They start over-explaining, backtracking, revealing insecurity. You don't even have to say a word. Your stillness exposes everything. You can use that in your relationships, in your work, and in any form of negotiation. When you speak less, you make your words valuable. When you stay silent, you make others reveal themselves. And when you combine the two, you're in control. So next time you're in a heated situation, remember this rule. If emotions are high, words should be low. If emotions are out of control, silence should take the lead. Because silence brings clarity. Words bring confusion. And here's the thing most people don't realize. Silence doesn't just control others. It changes you. It makes you calmer. It gives you space to think, to observe, to see people for who they really are. When you're silent, you start noticing patterns. You start understanding why people react the way they do. And that's when you stop taking things personally. You realize they're not angry at me. They're angry at themselves. You stop being reactive and you start being aware. And awareness, that's where all real power begins. Most men spend their lives reacting to words, emotions, criticism. They lose energy, they lose focus, they lose control. But the man who learns the art of silence doesn't lose anything. He observes, he decides, and then he moves when it's time. Not before, not after. That's strategy. That's control. So let's be clear. Silence doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean avoiding problems or pretending nothing happened. It means choosing the right moment to act. It's about waiting until emotions settle, until your words will actually have impact. Sometimes that takes minutes. Sometimes it takes hours. Sometimes it takes days. And that's okay. Because real men move on their time, not on pressure. The next time someone tries to pull you into an argument, don't fall for it. Notice your heartbeat. Notice your breath. Notice your urge to talk back. Then, choose not to. Smile. Stay quiet. Let the silence work for you. They'll keep talking. They'll try to get a reaction. But every second you stay calm, they lose power. Every moment you stay quiet, you're teaching them that you can't be shaken. And eventually, they'll stop. Because silence wins what noise never can. Respect. And here's the deeper truth. The man who controls his silence controls his life. He doesn't react to gossip, drama, or emotion. He chooses peace. He chooses timing. He chooses what deserves his words when and what doesn't. That's emotional maturity. That's real masculinity. That's power. So from now on, when people test you, challenge you, or try to push your buttons, don't rise to it. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to fight every battle. You just need to stay grounded. Because silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. And sometimes, the most powerful thing a man can say is absolutely nothing.